Welcome to the episode number 41 of QnA Series with Suresh GP. Today, we are going to continue our discussion around challenges in implementing DevSecOps. If you looked at the episode number 40, we talked about 6 challenges that were involved in implementing DevSecOps. In part 2, we are going to talk about the last 4 aspects that we need to keep in mind when it comes to DevSecOps implementation. As you know, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So it's absolutely important to focus on the cultural aspects where each and every one in the value chain is responsible for security. It is not the Chief Information Security Officer's responsibility. It's the team's responsibility to take charge of the end-to-end security. So, number 1, security is considered as a bottleneck. According to Gartner, 71% of Chief Information Security Officers say their DevOps stakeholders still view security as an impediment to speed to market. So, there is always a tussle between the speed and the security aspect. A common myth or perception among the dev and DevOps teams is that the security slows down the process. So hence, it is perceived as a bottleneck. And that cultural shift is so important to be addressed if we need to go ahead in the journey of DevSecOps. Number 2, lack of resources and knowledge gap. As I go around the world coaching and consulting organizations to build DevSecOps as a capability, I find that at least 70% of organizations lack adequate working knowledge of DevSecOps practices. They have limited staff, tools, and budget allocations, and that becomes a huge knowledge gap. Developers lack security and compliance expertise, which is one of the most common DevSecOps challenges. Similarly, security and operations teams are not familiar with both infrastructure and software development environments. The knowledge gap and common platform to share knowledge are barriers to DevSecOps implementation. Number 3, friction among cross-functional teams. Developers aren't usually security experts and predominantly focus on the core development part of faster deployment in tight delivery timelines. Security teams, however, are primarily concerned to ensure that the environment as well as the code is safe. So often these cross-functional teams work in silos because their goals and agendas are dissimilar. That leads to operational friction. So it is absolutely important to have a common set of goals and practices to mitigate the tension between the cross-functional teams so that they can focus as one single team to apply and get things done. The final one is roles and responsibility alignment. It is challenging to align roles and responsibilities as the DevOps environment is pretty dynamic. The teams are constantly changing in terms of squads and pods and tribes. Developers often think that security team is responsible for security and risk mitigation, but practically, the security professionals are focused on creating security policies, guiding developers and operators to understand the security requirements, compliance requirements, to deliver security code and serve as advisors. So the people and organization structure seem to be the hardest part when it comes to adopting DevSecOps. I hope that these 4 key aspects that affects DevSecOps as a challenge would be taken into consideration in your respective organizations while implementing DevOps. So that's very important that these challenges, both part 1 and part 2 that we discussed in episode 40 and 41, are taken into consideration and addressed so that your DevSecOps implementation becomes much more meaningful in delivering the required business results. I hope that this episode of QnA series was helpful to get a complete summary of the challenges involved in DevSecOps implementation. I hope you will take this into consideration in implementing DevSecOps fully in your respective organizations to deliver desirable business results. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to sharing you more questions in our future episodes of Q&A series. Thank you very much.